My attitude to hepatitis C has changed over the years, and it's been through involvement, I guess advocacy or activism or whatever you want to call it, around the Hep C community. And I've discovered more about rights, about attitudes and stigma. Probably, in a way, one of the biggest changes was getting involved in a service with Hepatitis New South Wales, where I go out and talk to people, mainly health professionals, about living with Hep C. And they did a training course for 4 days. And it's funny, when you do something like that, it raises issues you'd never even suspected were there in your life. And suddenly you realise that they have been and you just haven't noticed.
Well, I work in drug and alcohol, so clients obviously come in and they talk about problems. My attitude changed to how people were treated. Like, my attitude changed actually to healthcare workers, dentists and a lot of other service providers that discriminate.
I'd had babies and children and back operations, and it was never pointed out to me that I could have it. And of course I was scared when I found out that I did have it, because I'd been working in the school canteens, and I thought, did I have a Band-Aid on my finger at that time and all that stuff.
You've got to be very careful of blood products. I never left my toothbrush, my razor, anywhere near the bathroom. It was in my bedroom. If I cut myself cutting up food, the knife, the breadboard, the food, everything went in the bin. It was quite scary.
Being in the rehab, my worst fear was infecting someone else. And that's what was going through my mind at the time. That really freaked me out about having this virus and thinking, oh my God, even though people were telling me, like staff and the doctors that I saw, they said, it's not really that possible to do that, unless you're sharing needles. And because the rehab actually practice universal precautions.
Universal precautions, wear gloves, wear a mask, wear, the face shields. It's not going to jump up and jump down your throat and infect you. It's got to be blood to blood. If you protect yourself, there's no risk.
There was a period there for a year when I was diagnosed, and I thought back over the time when I'd had the Hep C, and it made sense that I was, I felt a bit fluish, tired. I just didn't have that energy I used to have, and food wasn't being processed properly.
Everything changed because I didn't have the energy, I was constantly being sick. So even when I was eating food, especially if I had any fat, within about half an hour, I'd be on the ground. If I was out, I couldn't get up and move for about another 20 minutes. So it really impacted me.
I decided to move to Sydney, where I could disappear, because I lived in a small community where everybody knew everybody or was related or worked with everybody. And I did not want to source out treatment in an area where I might be recognised.
When I had the virus and was living with it, I found it really difficult. I don't understand why, but I'd constantly get nauseous. I'd have to rest a lot, I'd have to sleep. So that's what I mainly, how I took care of myself, was when I was tired, I lied down and had a nap. I didn't try and push myself. But even in that, I felt a bit weird with other people, you know what I mean? I started comparing myself to other people and thinking, wow, there's something really wrong here.
I didn't have a relationship for a long time. It does impact, because you feel that if you find someone and you fall in love, there shouldn't be any secrets, and that's a huge thing to confide in somebody. So, no, I stayed as a single mum for a long time.
I had, just during that period about when I wasn't sure if I had HEP or not, I had a girl say to me, I wouldn't get in a relationship with you because you've got hepatitis, And I know that 2 other friends of mine that's happened to.
Disclosing you've got something like that is something you should put a lot of thought into.
Most of the places I've worked, I have eventually disclosed to most of the people working there. I did at one stage call myself a promiscuous discloser, but it's not true. I choose in the end who I disclose to, but most people that I work with know. And people have generally been very accepting of it. I used to work in the food industry, and I told a chef once, and you could see him jump back about 1 metre, but it's just because chefs are scared of hepatitis. once I told him about the transmission, that it was blood to blood, and he didn't have to worry, he was fine with it. So in general, it hasn't impacted on my employment as such. Only the only time it has actually was when I was doing treatment, which stopped me from working.
I only told my nursing unit manager because of the fear of my job. She was very supportive. She actually put me onto a lot of resources to find out more information. And I only told my mother and nobody else.
People I loved that were in my life, I told them, but otherwise it was just my business, basically.
You know, the people I told was, I'm kind of in a subculture, and a lot of those, a vast majority of people have Hep C. So I just talked to a couple of friends of mine about, you know, that I've got Hep C. You know, I felt very difficult about talking to my son and to my flatmate at the time. That's where it was quite, I felt quite awkward, you know, and I felt that shame, you know, what's my son going to think? And, you know, and when I did tell him, he didn't think anything, you know, to be honest.
I had to get the partner tested. That was fine, and my family, my mother and brothers and sisters were fine with it because they'd known about my past history, and I guess it might have explained some of my behaviour over the time. But but with the family, I had to get the kids tested. My older daughter was fine, but the younger ones were still quite young. They were just like 10 and 11, and I had to sort of somehow fabricate some information for them because I didn't want them knowing exactly what test they were having at force, because they might just let it slip out to their friends, and their friends tell their mothers, and the mothers say, well, you can't play with little Johnny today because his mother, you know, could go on like that. So I had to be sort of secretive about all that.